I am absolutely thrilled to have our final storyteller back here at the show. She is a phenomenal comedian and storyteller. You may have heard her on the Moth Radio Hour, and I'm sure you all know her from NPR's Ask Me Another, where she hosts this show phenomenally. Please give it up for Ophira Eisenberg.
My older sister recently came to visit. It was right after she got a little operation, and she had a scar right here across her neck. And she said that she wanted to come to New York to be around people like her. Yeah, I was like, really? Not the restaurants or the Broadway, just the broken people? Which is interesting because I'm from Canada, and when I was 30, I was living in Toronto, and I really wanted to move to New York. I did my entire life. But I was so scared. And I was not only scared because of expensive, and where am I gonna live, and where am I gonna work, and oh my God, I'm not even legal. But I knew I was gonna move single, and I am covered in scars. I have scars all over my body. And I was just so afraid of how that might be perceived if I found someone I liked in an image-conscious place like New York City. My scars, just so you know what I'm talking about, I have a huge scar on my torso. It goes from about here all the way down and then up one side, kind of like a crooked tree. It's a trauma scar from a car accident that I was in when I was 8 years old, and basically I'd broken ribs, I collapsed my lung, and I ruptured my spleen and lacerated my liver. So this is known as a trauma scar. They basically didn't know what was going on, so they ripped me open, sewed me all up, and then sewed me back together. Yeah, so I have this huge scar, and it's even though it's a surgery scar, I gotta tell you, it does not look controlled or thin or surgical. It's kind of thick in some places and thin in some places, and there's big stitch marks you can still see. It looks very industrial. So I was, and I kind of knew who I was in Canada. I was so used to it. I was so used to that trend, but New York just seemed totally different. Every image I had of New York was beautiful. And even my friend that I knew here, she was beyond, and all of her friends were like, they were pristine women. And I just felt like when I moved here, I might feel totally broken. I was at a bar in Toronto about 2 weeks before I was gonna move, and people were talking about scare stories, things that happen to tourists when they come to New York, and things Canadian travelers should be worried about. And the story that was circulating is that you have to be careful when you're at a bar to cover your drink, because someone might drug you, drag you off to a motel, and you'll wake up eventually in the bathtub with bandages all over yourself, because they will have harvested your lung or your kidney because organs were going through for big money on the black market. And I remember hearing this and just thinking, oh my God, I'm safe, you know? Like if someone drugs my drink and drags me off to a motel and splays me in a bathtub and rips up my shirt, they're gonna see the scar and just go, how did I get the one person already done? I am the most unlucky organ harvester of all time. So I felt maybe it was gonna be okay. And then I got to New York, and I will tell you, as far as figuring out how my scar fit in love and relationships, I did my due diligence because I slept around like crazy. Some people call that slutty. In Canada, we call it being nice. But I gotta say, that's just what I was into. I was really happy. Was and still is a very casual sex kind of town. And once I hooked into, you don't have to know someone's last name, you never have to meet their parents, I really liked it. And I gotta tell you, no one ever cared about the scar. No one. I think they were just happy to have someone. Matter of fact, I remember I was very self-conscious with this one guy as the shirt's coming off. You know, I had worked on a little speech for a while because I rarely mentioned it before, especially with casual sex. And that was the one thing I hated about the scar and wanting to like have casual sex, is that I couldn't be anonymous. Like my name already sticks out, Ophira, but I could lie about my name. But as the clothes came off, they would always be like that scarred chick. You know, like it just made me specific. It made them see a little too far into me. So I used to prepare a little speech where as the shirt came off, I would just go, hey, I just want to let you know that I have a big scar on my stomach from a surgery when I was like 8 years old. It doesn't hurt or anything, and it's totally sewed up. It doesn't feel good when you touch it. It doesn't really feel like anything. So just ignore it if you want, okay? Let's go. But you know, with this guy, I started getting into it. Like I was like, by the way, there's a scar on my stomach, and he just went, hey, 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 and he looked at it, and then he just shrugged, and he said, you know, everyone's got their thing. Yeah, that's when we were making out in his car. Then we went into his apartment, and you know, we opened the door to his bedroom. This guy had a bedroom. He was a 35-year-old man. His bedroom was filled with like 400 stuffed Garfields, and I was like, oh my God. But you know, I still slept with him because everyone's got their thing. And then I met Jonathan. And, you know, Jonathan was really into the scar. And I don't mean like it wasn't like an aphrodisiac, or he wasn't like, let me rub your penis on the scar. I have had that. But he was just inquisitive. He was just very inquisitive. I felt like his eyes were always trained on the scar. He would trace it with his finger. He asked a lot of questions about it. And you know what? I didn't really like it. And so one day I said to him, listen, because we were dating now for a couple months, longest of all time in New York. And I said, listen, let me tell you something. If we keep going out for a long time, at one point, you will not see the scar. You know, because that's the thing about scars. I don't know if you have one, but I think there's this misconception with like modern medicine and modern dermatology that there is some like laser or kombucha cream or some sort of patch that can make them disappear or make them just like get rid of them, erase them. But there's nothing. There is nothing out there. They are here to stay. But the one trick they do is that they vanish. Kind of like when you move into a new apartment and there's a big crack on a main wall and you're like, oh my God, we gotta fix that crack. We gotta plaster up that crack. That crack is driving me crazy. And then you don't. And time moves forward and you decorate the house and you put up the TV and you're reading on the couch and you don't even notice that crack's there. Like it just becomes part of the whole thing until someone comes over and goes, hey, when are you gonna fix that crack? And you're like, whatever. Every apartment has something. So when I said this to him about it, one day it will vanish, he didn't believe me. He didn't understand. He was like, what are you talking about? I have eyes, I'm always gonna see this. But it's happened to me. I mean, this is a scar on my body. I look in the mirror every day. And there have been years where I just didn't see it. Like I really did not see it. I just saw the whole and not the specific. We moved in together. 350 square foot apartment was our first apartment. It was crazy. It was so small. I mean, you couldn't hide. It was like playing human Tetris. I was like, you hold this lamp and I'll go to the bathroom. I mean, like crazy. And so you can't hide anything when you're living like that. You know, I couldn't like hide bleaching my mustache, let alone like kind of dressing and maneuvering around my scars. So it was just out there. Like it was just totally out there. And one day we were getting ready to go to someone's event, a big event. I just remember it was a big event because I was putting on pantyhose, the kind that have a seam that runs up the front of the tummy, and I've squished them onto my body, and I just have that and a bra on, and I'm putting on makeup in the bathroom. And Jonathan doesn't come in because it's a 350 square foot apartment, so he basically turns around and he just goes, "Oh my God!" And I was like, What? And he goes, No, your scar. Oh my God. I just noticed it. I haven't seen it, I don't know, months? I haven't seen it in months. Oh my God, your scar. That's so crazy. You told me that. It's so crazy. I mean, I didn't see it. I guess I just see you. And that is my definition of love is blind. And yeah, I married that guy. Thank you.
Yum's the word